It's about it's like 3:30 on Friday. Well, it's technically Saturday morning. Just played all day today. Streamed a couple of the gigs, but I was pretty much from the time I got up, I was just going nonstop. And just got home, and today was a rough one. I'm in a rough spot, and I wanted to, I debate about doing these. Because sometimes I think some of it's too personal, and I don't want to be too personal. But again, I really want to document the process, to show that it's not easy, to show that people can have a following, they can be successful, and still struggling daily, and that's part of the process, and that's okay. And yeah, just finished the gig. I was just exhausted. It was humid. It was hot. And then, of course, at the end of the night, a big fight broke out. Like there was like three different groups of people fighting, and like 5, 10 cop cars, and it was just all right, And then walking home with a wad of cash and thousands of dollars worth of gear is always a little unnerving when it's 3 a.m. And just feeling the energy at 3 a.m. is very different. It's the energy when you're leaving any bars at 3 a.m. and you're completely sober. I would say it's very sobering. Like you can take a look around and say, man, this is not what I. The energy is really, it can be really taxing because everyone is, agitated or amped up, and then you're walking home and there's all sorts of, there's all sorts of people who are unhoused or people who might have some kind of mental health issues. And sometimes it can be rough in those moments, just like, man, what am I doing? That's my little kitten. But again, I really wanted to document a lot of what I'm doing, a lot of what I'm going through, and not get too personal, but also I want to be real. And sometimes I think before I do these, I think, man, is this going to affect my brand, right? Is this going to affect my opportunity for working with music companies, working with endorsements, working with bands, being seen as a professional? And I think a lot of times we start thinking of ourselves in these ways as we need to be this brand or this vanilla product online, or not even vanilla, but just, you need to. And I think it's good to keep boundaries. Like, and it's good to, I was going to say, like, social media shouldn't be social, it's just business. And that's really what I want to use this for, is like business. But also a big part of my mission, I think, as a musician, is to help other musicians and to give other people permission to be unsure of their journey and to struggle in moments and to find ways to keep going. And, I'm really struggling today. This year has been probably the toughest year of my life. Easily. Not probably, definitely. It's probably been one of the toughest weeks of my life. And I've just been dealing with a lot of grief and pain the past year. And it doesn't go away in an instant. It's a process. And like anything worth having in life, it really is a process that you have to invest in. So one thing I was thinking, today is just like, man, some days I just need a break. I want to take a step back, but then what else am I going to do besides play music? And that, that can be, I'm like, well, what am I doing here? What is happiness? And that's a big question for a lot of people. What is fulfillment? And one thing I've been doing differently as I age and mature is that when I'm having this intense grief that's like weighing me down, that is suffocating. In the past, I would do things to compartmentalize it, disassociate, or I would do things like, all right, I would feel like invalidated somehow, feel like I'm not good enough, and I would find something extreme to like give myself value, like Ironman triathlons, multiple ones, making it my whole life because I'm like, oh, if I do something crazy like this, I have some value. I mean something to somebody. And so right now, when I'm going through this intense period, this intense season of grief and sadness, I have the tendency where I'm like, well, I'm just going to be the best at, I'm going to be the best musician. I'm going to get the biggest following. I'm going to get the biggest brand deals. And basically what I'm trying to do is like, I'm trying to fill this hole inside of me where there's this sadness and this grief. I'm trying to cover it up with, okay, well, I can do things to like validate myself and be the best so that it kind of distracts me from that and also makes me feel like I have some value. And I found doing that, using that as motivation, it can be really like using anger as motivation can be really helpful in moments. Like it can burn really hot and it can carry you through, but then you pay the price for it because then that anger just takes over. And why are you doing this? And that's what I was asking myself today. Like, why am I doing everything that I'm doing? And don't get it twisted. There's not a second that I don't think I shouldn't be doing music because this is what I'm meant to be doing. And I took time away from it. I'm really glad I got here. But also, having one thing I've learned in the past about anytime something traumatic happened, anytime I did not grieve something, I could stuff it away for a little while and I could keep on going, years even. But then sooner or later, that's my cat, sooner or later it comes back to bite you. And it's very much like credit cards. Like you can just charge, and sooner or later you're going to be drowning interest and you can't get out from underneath it. And so right now like I said, I'm in an intense amount of grief and sadness. And what I'm trying to do is allow myself to feel those things, acknowledge those things, and process them. And you know what, man, it sucks. Processing grief and sadness is exhausting. Kind of like budgeting your checkbook can be exhausting. But like the work you do today pays off tomorrow. And you can ignore that work for a day, a week, a month, a year, but sooner or later it comes back. So right now I'm thinking, okay, well, I'm having lots of grief and sadness. I need to process that and allow myself to feel that. And also be really present with it. And being really present with it means like, not drinking any alcohol, kind of avoiding going on sugar binges and avoiding even just like scrolling on my phone to disassociate. And it's really uncomfortable. And then I sit with a lot of discomfort. Like I would challenge anybody to like put away your coping mechanisms for a day. Your phone, the internet, TV, your comfort foods. And just really sit and be present with your thoughts and your feelings. And sometimes they can be overwhelming. And I've been doing a lot of that lately, and it is overwhelming. But when I do that, I find that, it makes things a little bit more manageable in those moments that I can keep on. Like, those moments suck, but I would rather have those moments where I'm crying, I'm just despondent, and say it's okay to feel these things, and know that it's really part of like hygiene. It's part of maintenance. So if you have an instrument, it's like you have to do things to like take care of it. Like you have to change the strings, you have to change the heads. It's not exactly exciting, but that's like part of what you do to have a functioning instrument. And if your brain, your body is an instrument, you have to maintain that. And you have to, it's basically like hygiene and like brushing your teeth. It's like nobody gets excited about it, and you never finish brushing your teeth. It's just part of what you do. And one thing I'm learning how to do is just process sadness and grief, which I am an extreme, intense amount for things that happened this year and things that have happened in the past. But I'm finally just addressing these things, and I hadn't addressed them in the past. And because I hadn't addressed them in the past, it caused a lot of destruction in my life. And now that I'm realizing it, it's just not like a switch I can flick off. Like, oh, okay, well, I'm all better now. No, it's like really like a long process. Like, think about it like changing your diet, losing weight, changing a lifestyle. It's a commitment, and it's a thing that you don't really see in the moments until you're far away from it and you're like, oh, I've made a lot of progress. So, there was moments today when I was playing where I wanted to be crying. I'm trying not to cry right now. And it's not a bad thing, but it's like, okay, sometimes you have things and you're like, all right, there's something there. I'm going to put this for later. And then maybe I'll sit down and think about that later and process that. Yeah, today was just a long day. Like, the only reason why I'm doing a live right now, because after I play, it usually takes me an hour or two to come down because I'm so focused and in that moment. But then I'm also thinking, man, these days are really exhausting. The money isn't the way it should be right now on Broadway, or I'm not making as much as I should be. And I'm really worried about finances. And I can think about that, and I'm not going to, yeah, things are tough right now. And I'm not feeling bad for myself. I'm like, okay, well, you can make some changes. But then I also think about, well, instead of thinking what you're doing wrong or what needs to change, what are things that, like, you're proud of? And I remember about like a year or two ago, I didn't think I could even play. Like, I didn't belong downtown. I was scared of Broadway. I thought I was a fake, an imposter. I would have like panic attacks anytime I sat in. Like, I would try to sit in and play one song and then run out of there before someone asked me to play another. And yeah, I felt like I wasn't good enough. I didn't belong. And now it's like I'm having to turn down gigs because I'm like, no, I'm just too tired today. Or like, no, I don't think that is what I need to be doing right now. So yeah, I'm thinking about like, I want to be spending less time playing on Broadway and more time playing other gigs. And instead of kind of bemoaning that, I'm like, oh, well, like a couple years ago, I was afraid to even play a gig. And it's like, now I'm not even like using charts on gigs. Today I was using charts. I was just looking at the tempos. But most of the times I'm not even using charts anymore. And that's a huge way from where I was a couple years ago. And I'm just using myself as an example because you can look at something from a couple different angles. And one thing I've been working on doing is saying, okay, what have I done better lately? What are things that I'm proud of? And starting from that point, now what are things and I'm proud of, like, I make my living playing music. I do nothing else. A couple years ago, I thought that career was over. When I first came to Nashville, I didn't think I could hack it. And now I'm thinking, okay, I need to make that next step in my evolution. I need to like focus on different gigs and really focus on what fulfills me. Is it money? Is it followers? Is it cachet, artistic or commercial? What really fulfills me? And I love playing, but I'm like, okay, I want to like, now where do I want to go with my playing? Where do I want to go with my music? And that's a quantum leap from thinking, I don't know if I can even play music. And the whole point is that sometimes when you're in the moment of this, this storm swirling around in your life, all you can focus on is that storm. But think, well, I'm traveling, I'm making this journey. Think about where I was when I first started off on this journey. I wasn't even sure if I could even sail in the ocean. And now I'm in the ocean right now. I'm in the middle of the storm navigating through it, and I'll get through it. And just being proud of, oh, I made some progress. And kind of like climbing up the ladder. Every rung you get up the ladder, it never gets any easier. It's always going to be challenging. And I think about the music industry like a marathon in multiple ways. And here's what I mean. One, it's more about dedication and time. But two, think about someone who's far ahead of you in the marathon. Think about the professional runners who are going to win it. They are in as much discomfort and they are hurting just as much as the people in the middle and the back of the pack. It's all relative to their experience and their tolerance. So everyone's out here and everyone's struggling in some capacity. Everyone has doubts in some capacity. Everyone has things about their mental health that they struggle with, and that's a big part of playing music. Yeah, and I'm just at a point right now where I'm like, today was a rough day, and I'm through it, and I have another day tomorrow. But really showing people like the realness of what how the sausage gets made. Not just in one day, not just in a week, not just in a month, but over time. When I first started doing YouTube again, I had no idea what I'm doing. I still don't know what I'm doing, but I feel like I'm getting a little bit better about communicating, a little bit better about just my music career. And also, I'm kind of today like, yeah, I'm starting to understand these are the things I need to talk about in these lanes, and this is what my brand identity is. And I'm starting to understand the marketing things, and the more I understand that, I'm like, that's cool. I just don't want to do that anymore. I don't want to try to like fit myself into this algorithm. I just want to do what I do. And that's another reason why I don't engage too much online. Like I'll post stuff, but I don't want to be swayed. I don't want to be influenced. I don't want to try to like pigeonhole myself into like this tiny box of whatever Instagram or TikTok or YouTube is. I'm like, this is who I am, and this is where you can see part of who I am. So yeah, I mean, I'm trying not to follow trends. And that's hard to do, but I think when you're trying to follow trends, that's exactly what you're doing. You're following. And I think everyone's trying to chase something, and I'm like, I just don't want to chase. I just want to be me and find out what makes me happy. I had some things that made me happy, and because of my unresolved pain and grief from the past, I absolutely destroyed those things that made me happy in my life. And I think a big source of that for many people is just sadness, like anger, which is really just sadness unresolved. And then just, for me, it was just self-loathing and didn't think I could do this. And I still kind of mourn a lot of the mistakes I've made in life, like everyone does. But I'm really thinking about them in a different way. And I'm trying not to obsess over them, but I'm also trying not to shove them away. I'm trying to be like, all right, these things happen in life. And that's part of your story. And, there's sadness around that, but it's also, I think sometimes feeling these things and processing it and acknowledging it, it's like, oh, okay, I have this thing, I'm going to, it's kind of like something like an ingrown toenail. I don't know. You can't just ignore it and just adapt to it. You just say, all right, I need to address this. And sometimes it's not a fun process. But yeah, that's where I'm at right now. And so I finally stopped sweating because it was incredibly humid, and like I walked all my gear home. And I'm finally just kind of coming down in terms of drinking too much coffee and playing too long for a drunken audience. Uh, yeah, it's sometimes when I'm playing, like, and I don't drink, I'm not really using any substances at all. I'm just on. And so now I'm like, all right, I need to get a few hours of sleep because I'm doing it all again tomorrow. But if you've watched, thank you. And really, why I do this is for other people out there. I want to let other people know what the process is like. And I want to give people things to think about and permission to be like, boy, life is tough. And also set an example saying, like, I'm not going to run or hide from this stuff, but I'm going to process it and keep moving forward. I mean, we're all human. And I think acknowledging your humanity is really important and tough. And I'm getting to the point where I'm like, okay, now I'm starting to fall asleep, which is good. Because, yeah. So I'm going to be shooting an interview tomorrow, doing a gig tomorrow, doing my live chat Sunday. I think I have another gig Sunday. Yeah, I'm doing 2 gigs tomorrow. So, and you know what? Tomorrow, honestly, I may take off from live streaming just because it's exhausting. And it's okay to miss a day or two. But I'll definitely be back for my Sunday live stream chats at 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 1:30 Pacific. But I really like the live streams because people can see what it's like playing on a live shift in Nashville. Yeah. And if you followed, thanks so much. There's people who follow me for various reasons, and I'm honored that you decided to take part of this journey. I hope it provides you with something. So be kind to one another, be kind to yourself. I'm going to clean up, hit the hay, do it all again tomorrow. Have a good night, everybody.